We have a timeline of events here on the history of the gain of function research. And what we have on our timeline is that there was a pause in this research, and then the pause was lifted in 2017. Let's take a look at this research and funding of gain of function, which you raised in a letter that you sent to Director Francis Collins of the NIH. Tell me what you want answered. You've got 17 questions here. You and 6 other senators signed this letter to Francis Collins.
Well, Maria, Joe Biden's been rolling over for aggressors around the world, not just China, but Russia and Iran. And this week, he seemed to draw moral equivalence between Israel and Hamas when he began to demand a ceasefire. But the letter that I joined Senator Ron Johnson and a handful of other senators on very specifically asks the National Institutes of Health why they were funding gain-of-function research in these Wuhan labs. Now, Dr. Fauci has been to Congress, and he said this absolutely did not happen. But Dr. Fauci is playing word games. So the money that the NIH gave went to an American organization, which turned around and gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to these Wuhan labs to investigate coronaviruses and, yes, to find ways to make them more contagious and more dangerous. And we asked Francis Collins, who is Dr. Fauci's boss, to come clean, to tell us exactly what was happening, why this research was being funded, as you point out, Maria, during a time in which the Obama administration had explicitly banned this kind of gain-of-function research into making some of the world's deadliest pathogens even more dangerous. And I think that there could be an example here of these public health bureaucrats thinking they know better, that they're not going to answer to political oversight and accountability, even in the Obama administration, and they went ahead with this research that could be very dangerous. That's why it is imperative that the NIH come clean and tell us exactly what happened.
You talk about those word games that Fauci was playing. In fact, we know that a gentleman named Peter Daszak was running or runs the Health Eco Alliance, the alliance that the nonprofit that took money from the NIH and sent it over to Wuhan. Here's Peter Daszak, who runs that alliance, talking about coronavirus. Listen to this.
You're saying these are diverse coronaviruses and you can't vaccinate against them. There are no antivirals. What do we do?
Well, so I think coronaviruses are pretty good. I mean, you're a virologist, you know all this stuff, but you can manipulate them in the lab pretty easily.
You can manipulate the coronavirus easily, he's telling us, in December of 2019. And by the way, after I spoke with you and others who suggested it likely came from the lab, I sent out a tweet talking about our show and the things that I found out. And Peter Daszak trashes me on Twitter, saying I know nothing. Meanwhile, here we are a year later. Obviously, it's likely that it came from the lab. What do you make of what took place here?
Well, I think a lot of these so-called experts and scientific bureaucrats are trying to cover their tracks. Again, this could be a genuine scandal. This could be public health bureaucrats violating explicit direction from the Obama White House to continue research that is highly, highly dangerous and potentially susceptible to escape from a laboratory, especially a laboratory in China that has notoriously bad safety practices. But of course, a year ago, Maria, Donald Trump was still in the White House, and the press didn't want to say anything that would maybe help him get reelected or to confirm what people like I was saying, since they don't like my politics. I guess now that Joe Biden's in the White House, they're willing to investigate a little bit deeper. It's just an example, once again, of how the press has become deeply partisan in our day.